So in general, sub L source dest is going to set these flags, and you see that the interpretations are somewhat complicated and depend on whether you're thinking signed or unsigned. But what you may notice is that we can get a kind of comparison out of this also. If source and dest are the same, then the ZF flag is set. If they're not the same, then the ZF flag is not going to be set. We can consider what if destination is less than the source, and then it turns out in an unsigned interpretation of the subtraction, if dest is less than source, then the CF flag will get set. If dest is less than or equal to source, then either CF or ZF, right? ZF gets set when they're equal, will be set. On the other hand, if we're thinking of it as a signed subtraction, then the interpretations are a little different. To conclude that dest is less than source, SF or OF must be set, but not both of them. So the XOR must be true. That means either SF set or OF is set. And the reason it's this kind of exclusive OR is dest might be negative and source might be positive, or vice versa, or they might both be positive and might both be negative. So these kinds of conditions, this XOR covers all of those cases. If we want to look for less than or equal to, then you just check for the ZF flag in addition. Just to work through a few examples, these are not obvious interpretations, that SF, XOR, OF, but we could double check our examples. When we subtracted 2 minus 1, there were no flags set, right? And that corresponds to 2 not being less than 1. On the other hand, when we take EAX and subtract EBX, right, EAX is less than 2, in either the signed or unsigned interpretation, so we should be able to conclude both of these things. And we see that CF is set, so unsigned, it really is less than. And in the signed case, we have SF is set and not OF, so the exclusive OR is true. So this interpretation of the flags correctly concludes that the value of EAX is less than the value of EBX. ECX and EDX, we get different results. Let's see. In the unsigned interpretation, EDX is not less than ECX. And so we see there's no CF set, so that's consistent here. From the signed interpretation, EDX is less than ECX. Only OF is set, so SF, XOR, OF will be true. So this is a case where the unsigned and signed conclusions on less than are different, and it's reflected correctly by those flags. One more, ECX and EDX. So ECX in an unsigned interpretation is less than EDX, not in a signed. It's flipping it around. We see that CF is set, so the signed interpretation is less than. Unsigned, both SF and OF are set, so the XOR cancels. Then we conclude as a signed number, ECX is not less than EDX.